Luka and the Dallas Mavericks are going to go to Spain this preseason, and they have a game up against Real Madrid. Usually, preseason games are held within the United States. They're not always held in NBA arenas. Sometimes they'll host games in, random little cities in a different state, sometimes even too, just so that more fans can be involved and they can show up to these games. But that's not always the case. Usually, a handful of teams are picked every year to go play internationally, and it looks like this time the Mavericks are going to be headed to Spain, which is really cool. Luka actually played for Real Madrid at one point too, and so he's going to go and play up against his former team. And when he was on that team, they actually won a championship together too. And so, the fact that he did play for them and, Luka being Luka, he probably has a pretty good fan base there. Real Madrid is a really good team. And so, they usually dominate the EuroLeague and they have a great fan base too for basketball. And the fact that a lot of good Spanish players do end up coming to the United States to play for the NBA. And so I can just tell that NBA and just basketball presence there is pretty big. And this is going to be a great fan service, I guess, just to anybody that wants to come and watch. And so that'll be really nice. This particular game is pretty important just because the NBA hasn't played in Madrid in a really long time. It's been over 30 or 35 years, I think, from the last time that Madrid hosted the NBA for any reason at all. So the fact that they are bringing an NBA team this time to play against their team, this is just going to be fan service for everybody. And for me, it's always cool just to see NBA. It's cool to see them play in other countries too. I think we're so used to seeing these NBA courts. And if you're a big NBA fan, then, you've got every court memorized. The way it looks, the way the court paint is, the jerseys, this and that. Those things don't change too much. And that part is very routine. And it's not an issue too. But just imagine them playing in a different city, different types of fan bases, maybe an announcer speaking Spanish. It's a change. And sometimes that type of change is exciting. This isn't the only international game. As far as I know, the Mavericks and the Timberwolves are going to be playing a few preseason games in Abu Dhabi as well this season. So that's going to be really exciting too. I can imagine Abu Dhabi, throwing money to kind of build a little stadium, build a court. I can see them putting way too many seats in the stands to where they just have, an enormous amount of people come and watch. But again, this is just fan service, and I think it's a good situation for everybody involved. These preseason types of games, it does make me wonder if the NBA if they'll ever have either the playoffs or the finals somewhere else. I know logically that doesn't make any sense, because usually for these games, one team has the home court advantage and one team has the away disadvantage, I guess. And this isn't a must for any game, but it's kind of been this ritual for the NBA. Fans usually want somebody to cheer for and somebody to boo. And it's been a big part of NBA games forever. But I do wonder if there will ever come a time where, let's say, like all of the playoffs are held in the United States, but then the finals alone, so, game 1 through 7, all of the finals are held in a different country. So, they have a whole dedicated arena and they have like tickets, everything. That would be pretty cool. I think this is a great way to bring fans together. I know that football or soccer, I know that soccer is the most international that a sport is right now. And I know there's some other sports as well that are played throughout every country. I know baseball is pretty big. Tennis is played pretty broadly as well. But I think when it comes to like major leagues, NBA year after year has been getting really big internationally. I know places like Taiwan, really a lot of Asia, Europe, the NBA fan base there is just growing more and more. And every time that the NBA does branch out to host or to have games hosted in other countries, it only brings more fans together, and which I think is really good for the sport. In other news, I was reading up on like preseason games, and I learned that teams that make the NBA Finals usually play fewer preseason games. And this was kind of new to me. I guess it makes sense logically. And I guess I just never paid attention to it throughout the years. But that is something that exists right now too. So if a team went really far in the playoffs or they made it to the finals, then they're gonna have fewer preseason games to play. And I wonder if that same thing goes for international games too. And I think it would. I think that's why teams like the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, I think that's why these teams are selected to go play internationally. And like, the Denver Nuggets are not required right now to go play internationally. So this was a new rule to me. I didn't know this was in existence, but it does make sense. But either way, regardless of whatever team does go out there, in this case, Dallas, this is a good chance for the team to see how well they play and for the coaches to really evaluate their players. When it's preseason time, they can give their starters less minutes, and this gives time for these bench players to really prove themselves too. And it gives them a chance to kind of show what they're capable of to the coaches as well. So I think this will be a good opportunity for Dallas and for the Timberwolves as well, just to kind of see how the roster is looking. And, if the coaches don't want to keep the bench players in, then they can just put Kyrie on the court. And I think the fans in Madrid will just love that. And again, all of this is just in the spirit of fan service. So overall, it's good to see the NBA continue to play international games to bring the fans closer together. I don't know about you guys, but I'm very excited for the season. October 18th is the tip-off, and I absolutely cannot wait. And of course, when the time comes, I'm going to be making little update videos and just little highlights here and there. So tune in, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.